Thank you again for this opportunity of being able to have a role. And I want to share with you perhaps a thought that that was shared with me. And many of us, we have parents, and oftentimes we, as old as we are, even though we become elders, we still are beckoned to follow certain instructions. So when I do leave, I often ask my mom and let her know that this is where I'm going and this is what I'm going to do. And she has never left her particular birthplace home. Nope, I would imagine no more than 100 miles radius. And so she's always been home. And she cannot begin to comprehend, and perhaps it's good that she doesn't comprehend a lot more than what she does because of the different activities that are happening here. But oftentimes she will always tell me, remember that you're part of the Five Finger Clan, and that's who you represent. Not only do you represent your clan, and not only do you represent me, but you have to remember, since the diversity of our particular families, because we have I have nieces and nephews that are Lakota, and then I have Mexican American that are my great grand nieces and nephews, and then also we do have Anglos that are in the family as well. And so with that, she's beginning to understand that our particular family is diverse. And so the best way that she can put it is that let your every movement be that you understand and appreciate that we are all part of the Five Finger Clan. And so with that, you respect the people that are living there, the people that you associate with, and therefore you will be respected in that particular way. We are people who are people of faith, people who have faith in the context of this. Our particular ancestors, Dene from the Four Corners regions, they would go high up into the mountaintops of the Chusca Mountains, and they would take with them their particular offerings of white shell, turquoise, abalone, and jet. And they would cast it into the streams where the mountain snows would be melting. And they would call forth the rain so that we, the people, could continue to survive. And they would ask for other good blessings to come forth as well, because planting season is starting for many of our people as well. So in that, they were people of faith. They would take their particular offerings and ask the deities, the holy people, to bless them. And in the same way, I would like to ask again that we, as many different groups of people coming together, being part of the Five Finger Clan, that we may be able to pollinate each other with the concept that we share our particular knowledge so that we can begin to plant seeds within our own communities and thereby continue to survive as a people. We still have our language, we still have our songs, we still have our way of living, although we have been perhaps understanding a bit more that we have appreciated the many other blessings that have come from this diversity merging together, but our particular roots remain close to our ancestral homes, and thereby we continue to receive many different people who come into our homes in that way. So with this, I would like to ask you to bear with me as I say a short prayer. Kunza de hol just oye kuya. Ingin dah na inda the lake home de ki mana hasan de ni inda the lake home de. Ingin ta ya de siet de ku han so she ku hajo pa initsen. Inda the lake home de ki kin de ni ge ku. Ya de na ni ta so le ku zi sa kha ni ka da te ku de ki. Bi ne khado han so she ku. Ingin je be na ho be ingin da has de ge ya kon be hasan de kon ki yo dan ding sa hon kit ne to da betske da kui be ingin da has de ado da kon we to chi ding to hon han so she ku da has an ding ko de ki ye be da ti ha le ko de ki nil sa ta on ne ding Don't the hand so she could not have what and then han so she could the steady need to need the card in the layout of an need that or the leave out here. And so her case in that point, they could and it's our danger. Nakada is there and then you go to heat and you get an needs and go according to one dollar or let Kodo and it's a nicely,
With BASE, we work with 18 community organizations based around the country, working on issues of nuclear and chemical weapons and renewable energy. And the Peace Development Fund, one of our main priorities is to support organizations who have strong leadership from the communities that are most directly impacted by the issue that they're organizing around. In our criminal justice work, one of our program partners named Dorsey Nunn told me a story once of when he was released from prison. He started an organization with a couple of friends of his called Free at Last in East Palo Alto, California. And at the time, East Palo Alto had one of the highest murder rates in the country. And through his work over the course of a couple of years, the murder rate in his community significantly dropped. And a couple of years after he started doing that work, a couple of researchers from Stanford University came down and did research on the work that he was doing. And now these researchers are credited for being experts in this field. And it seems ridiculous to say that, but that's what happens in so many of our communities, that the people who are really doing the work on a grassroots level are never recognized for their work. And so it's with that I have the honor and the privilege of moderating this panel with leaders from our BASE initiative, with people who live in the communities and work in the communities every day to try to improve their situations. So I'm going to introduce the panelists, and we'll have some time at the end of the panel for some questions and answers. So if you could, please hold your questions until the end, but definitely you will have an opportunity to engage with them. So, as you're listening to them, please think of any questions that you might have. Our first speaker is Dr. Mildred McLean from the Citizens for Environmental Justice. She has, since the very founding of BASE, and really for decades and decades before, she's been working on this and has been a leader who's recognized both nationally and internationally for her work. So, Dr. Mildred McLean.
I bring you greetings from the deep south of this part of the United States. And before I get started, I would like to give thanks to the indigenous people of Turtle Island where we stand. And I'm humbled that I'm allowed to be here because I am a descendant of the New World slaves that came from Africa. And we honor the tradition of acknowledging those who care for and are stewards of pieces of land, because we don't own anything, the land is just on loan to us. I would also take this time to dedicate my remarks, which will be very brief, to my mother, who, as we sit here, is making her transition back to the Creator. And I honor her for all that she has taught me and all that she has given me to be able to represent my communities. I'm not their voice, but I try to serve them in the best way that I can. I give honor to the Creator because when I was 17 and I'm now 59, it was predicted that I would not make it past 35 because I had contracted some horrible disease from drinking unpasteurized milk. But we later found out that the cows over on the southeast coast of this country had been poisoned by the tests from the Nevada test site. And so we're still talking about and saying we're sick and tired of being sick and tired. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around. turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom's land. Ain't gonna let no nuclear weapons turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let no nuclear weapons turn me around. We gonna keep on walking, keep on fighting, marching up to freedom's land. That's one of our traditions as African people in this country. We don't do nothing without singing. These that I work with are surrounded by 17 industries that put out poison every day. And two of the major industries are a paper and pulp mill and an oil company. And we have been bludgeoned by air toxins, that's poison in the air. And it has impacted our health, our children. So in addition to insult and injury, we have an also by the fact that the Department of Energy has made a decision to use the Savannah River site to dispose of this country's 50 metric tons of surplus weapons-grade plutonium. And the way in which we are going to dispose of this plutonium is putting it through a process called mixed oxide fuel fabrication, instead of immobilization, which would take that plutonium and put it in glass in some logs, and we're going to ship it over to Teresa because she wants more of it as a cash cow. But we're going to use the MOX process, and in the process of processing the plutonium, we're going to generate more highly radioactive waste. And this is all for commercial nuclear power plants. It's not for the people. It's for those who profit off of our misery. Even though we have fought this site, it's now in construction. It's going to cost about $25 million to build, and it's only going to yield about 100 jobs. So when they were engaged in the environmental impact statement process, they said, oh, this is going to be wonderful for your communities because we're going to have more jobs and it's going to mean economic prosperity. Well, they didn't tell us that it was only going to be for 100 people, and none of them are going to come from Savannah. I also live on the coast, the southern coast of the Atlantic Ocean. And so I'll tell you that we have some tritium, and we have an old nuclear warhead somewhere right off the coast of Tybee, which is about 12 miles from us, and they don't know how it got there. They don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to dismantle it. And the sediment that's coming from the Savannah River is loaded with tritium that over the 50 years of the Savannah River site's life cycle has accidentally and routinely been released into the Savannah River, which is one of our drinking water sources, particularly for South Carolina. And the sediment is so radioactive that when we are talking about expanding the port, we're talking about digging that up and exposing people further to low-level radioactive material. In addition to getting rid of the 50 metric tons of plutonium, we're already in the process of receiving 15,000 spent nuclear fuel rods from Europe. In addition to that, we're already putting into glass logs some 34 million gallons of highly radioactive waste. That does not include the low-level waste, the medium waste, the transuranic waste. We got waste, 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 and more waste, and now we're going to generate even more. I work with the indigenous people of my region, and we stretch the definition of indigenous because we think we're indigenous because we've been born there for a long time and we're not going anywhere. And we also work with the residents who live in these regions, who have lived in these regions, and who claim these regions as their homeland. We work with community-based organizations who are underfunded and overworked. And we try to work with policymakers to change how they do business, and yet we have not been successful, even though we have worked with them for the past decade under what has been called a partnership, which has been we've been on a suicidal mission, I'll put it that way. We thought we were working with people who were honest, of integrity, but instead they were just using us to have their checklist. You work with African Americans, check. You work with indigenous people, check. You work with low-income people, check. But what was that work? It didn't amount to anything. I just want to say very briefly that we have begun to look at this whole issue of climate change, and it's very new for us because we've been so bogged down into dealing with what was going on at the Savannah River site, amongst all the other issues that we deal with, the poverty, the lack of access to health care, the drug trade in our region, the high incidence of incarceration of our young people, the destruction of our families and traditions. And so we haven't been able to grapple with this issue of climate change, but it's so important because climate change has a profound impact and will have a profound impact on our health, and we're already sick and tired of being sick and tired